Well, hello everyone. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Craig Roberts, renowned photographer, and if you've been watching me for years, all right, how you doing? Now, a question for you. How do you see my images? Do you see them like this, or like this? Some photographers present their images like this, whilst others are even like this. So I will explain why the reason this might be in this video, but first here's a few clips and images from my latest shoot and the type of videos I offer on my E6 subscription. So I came about this question as an idea when I asked my wife why she was watching BBC One on Channel 1 rather than Channel 101, 101 being the HD high definition version of the channel. She replied that she preferred the SD, the standard definition version. To her, it looks better. And although I found this bizarre, I could relate to it in a way, as I myself am not taken in by the whole 4K revolution, let alone 8K. My videos are filmed in 4K but uploaded in HD. This means a smaller file size, gives me options of cropping during editing, like this, and in a way feels more cinematic. 4K on a TV that has too much processing switched on can look, well, very odd. And that brings me back to my original question. How do you see my images? Are you seeing them as I do on my computer monitor as I edit them? If your computer monitor is set too bright, my images won't look right. Well, not as I intended anyway. I don't know what monitor or TV screen you are watching my videos on or viewing my images, and I can only hope it's similar to mine. So in the same way, how are others seeing your images? What screen do you edit your images on, and is it set correctly? Now, back when I supplied my images to magazines and photo libraries, this was very important. I would spend time editing my images for color correction, white balance, contrast and exposure. The publisher who viewed my image needed to see the same one that I was submitting. The only way to guarantee that would be to make sure that the image was set to the right profile, Adobe RGB, and that both our monitors were correctly calibrated and profiled. And this is something I still do today. My screen is an older Dell 2K LCD monitor. I don't necessarily need a 4K screen, but what I do need is a calibrated monitor. So for that, I use this device, a color monitor calibrator. And this sets up the monitor that I use so that it displays the screen at the correct brightness, correct contrast, and with all the colors accurately set. In the past, I used this spider one made by Datacolor, but my current one, tailored for this monitor, is made by X-Rite. Now, before I show you how I use this gadget, let me quickly remind you of my photography workshops. I have 3 group workshops available for 2025 so far, 2 in London and 1 in Manchester. These are brand new small group workshops where you get the chance to see how I approach the urban environment. I'll show you how I set up my camera and how I find my compositions, as well as how I use my camera to capture creative shots, so that you can do so too. See my website for more details and, well, maybe see you on one of the dates. Now, the calibrating process is very easy to do. You just install the software onto your computer, plug in the calibrator via USB, place it on your screen. It's easier to do this if you set your monitor at an angle first. Press go and, well, just let it do its thing. Go and have a cup of coffee whilst it works its magic, and 10 minutes later it will tell you it's all finished and it will save a profile for this. And you just need to make sure that this is saved and used by your computer's graphic card for your screen. And what this now means is that when I adjust any color or adjust contrast in my images when editing, I'm not under or overdoing things simply because the screen is set incorrectly. I'm not adjusting the exposure too much simply because the screen brightness is way too high, as they often are by default. Now, as I don't send my images to publishers anymore, this may not be seen as so important these days, but I do this by default and I'm setting my images to a set standard. I can therefore only hope that anyone else who sees my images is also doing the same. I hope their screen, your screen, is calibrated so it matches my screen here. If not, then you won't see the adjustments that I made as I did them and saved them as. My images may look different. Now, the same thing applies to seeing my work on a phone screen or a tablet, except there's less room for error now, as these screens can't be corrected or calibrated. You can basically set the brightness up or down and that's it. So my extra efforts in post-processing here could perhaps be wasted. It could be the same reason why some photographers set their images like this, or like this, as some do. So what are they seeing? What is wrong with their screen where this kind of sharpening looks okay? Of course, everyone has their own ideas of how an image should be adjusted. This is subjective and down to each photographer's individual taste. But all that may be wasted anyway if others haven't got a similar looking screen to view the image on, or one that is set up the same. With all of us using digital cameras, shooting RAW and using photo editing software, I guess we are still doing this task on our computers. Well, I guess most of us are. If you're one of those who edits on your phone, then maybe you need to be aware of your screen brightness, at least as you edit. Or even the angle of your screen if you edit on a laptop. But if you post your images to social media, you can't predict how bright everyone else has their phone set, or even how warm or cool their phone screen is. But if you can at least have yours set at default mid-level brightness, then that's all you can do and hope for the best. So my images are set to a recognised standard. I hope you are all seeing my images or watching my videos on a similar screen. A screen who, as fellow photographers, has correctly calibrated. If you're watching this on a 4K OLED HDR TV with all the fancy processing features switched on, God help me, if you hate my images, then chances are I would hate them too on your TV. So if you've never calibrated your computer monitor, I would suggest you do. If you care about how your images look, and by shooting raw and editing them, I presume you do, it's worth doing this essential step. The more all of us do this, the more chance we all have of seeing each other's images as, well, as intended. I'll see you next time.